Dear friend, there is a divine reason why you see this message. In the flow of life with its events and chaos, there is a moment when your eyes meet this reminder. See this message because you will attain Sahaja Samadhi. Have you ever wondered why, among billions of souls wandering in this universe, you hear these words, you come to this path? The answer is simple, yet profound. Because your true nature calls you back. Sahaja Samadhi, it is not a distant state, not a goal for you to strive to conquer. It is your natural nature, the true home of your soul. You have always been that silence, but you forgot. You have always been that presence, but you ran after illusions. And today, with all the love, with all the silence of Mount Aranakula, I want to sit before you, look into your eyes, and whisper. You do not need to search for Samadhi. You are Samadhi. The journey to find myself. I want to tell you about my own life, so that you can realize that what I have experienced, you can also experience. I am also a normal boy, with aspirations, fears, curiosities. But at the age of 16, a strange event happened. I faced death directly. On a normal day, without illness, without accident, suddenly an extreme fear enveloped me. I am going to die. I did not run away. I did not beg. I lay down, let go of everything, and let my body become cold. I let my breath stop in silence. I looked straight at the question. Who is dying? This body lies here, gradually stiffening, becoming heavier. But did I disappear? No. An untouchable presence is still shining. And I realized, I am not the body, I am not the mind. I am the immortal self. Dear friend, that very moment was the door that opened for me to Sahaja Samadhi. Not a state of ecstasy, not a dream, but natural, ordinary, eternal. The illusions of the mind and how we lose Samadhi. Dear friend, I have told you that Sahaja Samadhi is not something you have to attain, but is the true nature that is always present. Then why don't we see it? Why are we still dragged into suffering, restlessness, and lost? The answer is the mind and its illusions. The mind, the endless storyteller. Observe yourself. From the time you wake up to the time you go to sleep, even in your dreams, there is a voice in your head. It talks about the past, it imagines the future, it worries, it hopes, it calculates. The mind is a tireless storyteller. And you believe in those stories, you identify with them. When the mind says, I am sad, you immediately think you are sad. When the mind says, I am happy because of this, you immediately think your happiness depends on external circumstances. But have you ever stopped and asked, who is it that hears these stories? You are not the storyteller. You are the listener. You are the silent presence that is always there, even when the mind is in turmoil. The illusion of identification. The mind is not bad. It is just doing its job. Thinking, analyzing, imagining. The problem is that you identify yourself with the mind. You think, I am my thoughts. This is the most fundamental illusion. And from this illusion all other sufferings arise. Bhagavad Gita says, those who identify themselves with the mind and the senses live in the cycle of birth and death. But those who see themselves as the unchanging witness are beyond all bondage. You see, it is identification that makes you lose Sahaja Samadhi. Your nature is stillness, but you think you are the whirlpool. The illusion of the ego. From identification with the thought, a false entity is born, the ego. The ego says, I am this body. I am this profession. I am my reputation, my wealth, my memories. You have built a sand castle, and you call it me. But that castle can collapse at any time. When old age comes, when illness strikes, when fame disappears. And you suffer because you think you are collapsing. But what is the truth? The ego is just an illusion, a character in the story of the mind. Ego is only a thought. You are not the thought. You are the ground in which the thought arises and dissolves. The illusion of seeking outside. One of the most subtle tricks of the mind is to keep you looking for happiness outside. You believe, if you have more money, you will be happy. If you have someone who loves you, you will be happy. If you have fame, you will be satisfied. Even when you practice, you think, when I attain samadhi, I will be liberated. Do you see? The mind always pushes happiness out of your reach, placing it in a future that has not yet arrived. But Sahaja Samadhi is not in the future. It does not depend on any conditions. It is here, right now, if you just let go of the search. The illusion of time. The mind exists only in time. It lives on memories of the past and fantasies of the future. But have you ever really lived in the past or the future? They are just thoughts. The only reality you have is the present. Sahaja Samadhi is the abiding in the present, where there is no past to regret, no future to worry about. When you ask, "Who am I?" you break the trick of time and return to the unchanging knowing, unborn, undying. The art of observation, the path to Sahaja Samadhi. Dear friend, we have seen clearly that the mind is an endless storyteller, creating illusions of self, time, and external seeking. But instead of seeing the mind as an enemy, you need to learn to engage it with awareness. It is pure observation, without judgment, without attachment, that opens the door to Sahaja Samadhi. Observation, the silent power of transformation. Imagine you are sitting on the bank of a river. The water is rushing, carrying dead leaves, twigs, and even rubbish. You have two choices, to rush in and grab it, or just sit and observe. The same is true of the mind. Thoughts come and go, emotions arise, and then pass away. If you rush in, you are swept away. But if you just look, you remain the quiet riverbank. Observation does not mean indifference, but seeing without identification. It is this distance that dissolves the power of the mind. Observing without the observer, that is freedom. When pure observation happens, you are no longer an ego trying to observe, but pure, egoless awareness. Letting go, the art of freedom. The mind loves to hold. It holds memories, it holds successes, it holds failures, it holds relationships, it holds pain and hope. But every holding takes you away from your inherent freedom. Letting go does not mean denying life. Letting go is not letting anything bind you. You still live, still love, still act, but no longer possess, no longer depend. Like a flower that blooms and then fades. You enjoy its beauty, but do not suffer when it falls. Letting go is the ultimate intelligence of the heart. Practice returning to the observer. To see this truth, you can practice simple but powerful steps. Be aware of the breath. Whenever the mind wanders, bring your attention back to the breath. The breath is the rope that pulls you back to the present. Ask a question. When thoughts arise, just ask, who is thinking? The question is not to find an answer, but to pull you back to the ground of awareness. A moment of pause. Before reacting, pause for a few seconds. This pause opens the door to egolessness. Feel the stillness, even in the midst of noise, there is a still, unmoving background within. Return to it. Gradually, you will see, you are not what happens, you are the space in which everything happens. When observation becomes samadhi, initially, you observe as a practice. But when the observation is deep enough, you realize there is no longer observer and observed, only pure knowing. This is sahaja samadhi, the natural state, not made of effort, not of seeking, but of returning to the source. When you abide in the knowing I am, not clinging to anything else, the truth reveals itself. A message for you. You do not need to run away from the mind. You just need to learn the art of observing and letting go. Just as the sun does not need to fight with the darkness, it just shines, and the darkness dissolves. When you live in observation, you become that light, luminous, infinite, unmoving. And then you realize, sahaja samadhi has never been lost, it has always been there, waiting for you to return. The path of self-realization, self-inquiry is the key to samadhi. Dear friend, there are thousands of spiritual paths, chanting, meditation, yoga, contemplation. But all of them, in the end, lead to a single point: who am I? Of all the paths, self-inquiry is the most direct. Because instead of following the thoughts, you go straight to the source of the thoughts. The nature of the question, who am I? When you ask who am I, you are not looking for a verbal answer. This is not a logical problem. This question is like an arrow, piercing the false shells of the ego to bring you back to pure knowing. You can say, I am this body. But the body changes every day, not you. You can say, I am this thought. But thoughts come and go, aren't they you? You might say, I am this feeling. But the feeling arises and then passes away, aren't you? Each time you look honestly, the false answer dissolves. And in the end, there's only presence, the unchanging, wordless, formless knowing. Why is self-inquiry the key to samadhi? In traditional meditation, you usually focus on one object, the breath, a sound, an image, a mantra. This calms the mind, but there's still a division, the meditator and the object of meditation. Self-inquiry is different. It doesn't point outward, but pulls you back to the source of that meditator. When you ask, who am I? You turn the light of attention back to the observer. When you trace it back to the source, the ego is nowhere to be found. And in that gap, samadhi reveals itself. Samadhi is no longer a state to be attained, but a truth that is always present, only obscured by the illusion of I. How to practice self-inquiry in life. This is not a complicated method, but extremely subtle. Step 1. When a thought arises, instead of following it, ask, who is thinking this? Step 2. When an emotion arises, stop and ask, who is feeling? Step 3. When the ego says I want, I am afraid, I am sad, turn around and ask, who is this I really? Don't wait for a verbal answer. The power of the question lies in the moment of silence when you look directly at the source. In that silence, you touch yourself, the unchanging self. Self-inquiry in the fall of the ego. Initially, the ego will resist. It will give you countless answers, names, past, memories, social roles. But keep digging. Like peeling the skin of an onion, each layer disappears. When the last layer falls away, you realize, there is nothing left to call me. But don't panic. It is in that emptiness that you see the true light, the impersonal, infinite, eternal presence. Living samadhi in the middle of everyday life. Dear friend, sahaja samadhi, The natural state is not outside of life, but is the heart of everyday life. Samadhi is not you have to leave the world to find, but you look through all the activities of life to see the stillness within. The reason we can live samadhi in the middle of everyday life. Sahaja Samadhi is not a state of separation, but the realization of the true nature in all circumstances. When you wash the dishes, you can still be in samadhi. When you drive, you can still be in samadhi. When you talk, love, work, you can still be in samadhi. Why? Because samadhi is not doing something special, but pure knowing that is always present. It does not come and go. Only the distracted mind makes you forget it. Attitude of living in samadhi. To live in samadhi, you do not need to change external circumstances, but change the way you are present in each moment. Let go of the intention to possess. When you work as a channel for life, not as a possessor of results. Let go of ego. You may succeed or fail, but deep down you know I am not those labels. Unconditional love. In samadhi, love is no longer I love you in return, but a natural flow from the being. Act, but do not cling to the results of the action. Let everything happen in the stillness of the witness. Samadhi in relationships. Relationships are often where the ego is strongest, wanting to be right, wanting more, wanting to be recognized. But when you are in samadhi, you no longer react from the ego, but from boundless love. When someone praises you, you smile but you are not attached. When someone criticizes you, you smile but you are not hurt. When someone comes, you love. When someone leaves, you let go. Samadhi teaches you that no one really belongs to you, just as you do not belong to anyone. Everything belongs to the One Presence. Samadhi in trials and suffering. One of the clearest proofs that you are living in samadhi is how you face suffering. When illness comes, you observe it from a still, non-identifying ground. When loss occurs, you know that the true nature cannot be lost. Suffering comes to remind you to return to yourself. If you cling to suffering, you are lost. If you turn inward, suffering becomes your teacher. Signs that you are living in sahaja samadhi. You can do many things, but there is still an unshakable stillness in your mind. You love people, but are not attached to results or possessions. You face challenges, but deep down there is an unconditional peace. You no longer crave to seek outside, because you have found yourself inside. A message for you. Dear friend, samadhi is not a distant dream, but your own natural foundation. When you practice self-inquiry, when you learn to observe, when you let go of illusions, you will see that you do not need to leave the world to find liberation. You do not need to fight against the world to find peace. You just need to be present in your truth. Sahaja samadhi is when you live the ordinary life, but are no longer a slave to the ordinary life. You participate in the play, but don't forget that you are the endless stage where all the plays take place.